Was this whole thing at 34 Fairview that night supposed to be a swingers party? OMG. Wait a second. So there's a disc of digital phone data too?
Gay Jeff kissed me, not like a friend.
If you listen to Loophole lawyer, he would say the person who killed John O'Keefe, Brian Higgins.
Brian Higgins?
Go this way, go this way.
The swinger scene in Canton has just been confirmed by this police report. Now I know that I have never seen this before. I followed up by confirming that Brian never had sexual relations with Karen, John, or the two of them together. What? You hit like a bitch.
Be cool, be kind, be classy.
I'm such a raging bitch.
Have fun and enjoy the journey.
Mikey, we'll have your IP address by tomorrow.
She lives in New York City.
Hey, so do I.
Kindness will never fail.
You think I'm a raging bitch?
Be classy.
Motherfucker.
Be classy.
Fucker.
Oh, Melanie Little is going live.
Fucker. 2 years I've been covering the Karen Reed case.
We have some breaking news in the Karen Reed case. Corey Hopkins and myself were able to obtain the police report filed by Yuri Buchanek after he interviewed Brian Higgins, and we sent it to Emily, who sent it to Melanie Little last night. Let's watch.
When I started covering it, Turtle Boy was in jail. Oh, Melanie hated him. You know, she would never let anybody mention her name on his channel. Blah, 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 blah. In order to stay on task, it helped to not have his name mentioned in the chat. So that was my executive decision to keep him out of the conversation.
Before she started to read the document, Melanie's explaining how she used to keep out Turtle Boy because she keeps her show PC with no cursing and otherwise.
Because, let's face it, he is a little bit more freer with his vocabulary than I am. Bitch. Motherfucker. All the bullshit that's been happening lately is a little bit more freer with his vocabulary than I am. Fucker. Biatch. A shit show. Rich bitch. Guess what? They didn't bang. They didn't swing. You hit like a bitch. Bitch.
And because Melanie keeps it PC without any cursing, I let both my kids watch her show at any time. Let's keep watching.
Thanks, Emily C., for this. Corey Hopkins and Loophole Lawyer just got Brian Higgins' interview from a FOIA request. You guys want to read it? Well, here it is.
I can't take any real credit for this. Corey Hopkins was the one that drafted it, and all I had to do was sign and send it.
Courtesy of the FOIA from Yuri Buchanek, subject Brian Higgins. Trooper Proctor and I traveled to blank for a pre-scheduled interview with Brian Higgins. Remember, it was out of the lawyer's office. Through our investigation into the death of John O'Keefe, Brian had been identified as a witness present with a group of friends at Waterfall Bar and Grill on January 28th of 2022. Brian also was one of the friends invited back to 34 Fairview Road in Canton following the bar closing for the night and was a witness to events inside the home. During that interview with Trooper Proctor and me in the presence of his attorney, Michael Donatel.
Brian Higgins killed John O'Keefe during the early hours of January 29th. Just a few days later, the tubby killer had already lawyered up and then requested that he be interviewed by both Trooper Buchanek and Michael Proctor at his lawyer's house. Let's keep watching.
Brian began by saying that he met John O'Keefe and Karen at the same time approximately 1 year ago at either the Waterfall or the Hillside Pub. Prior to January 28th, Brian last hung out with John and Karen during the last New England Patriots game at John's house. John had invited Brian to watch the previous few games, but Brian had been declining the invitations and not visiting the home. On January 28th, 2022, Brian told us he was coming back from New York City with his friend Brian Albert. Once back in Canton, Brian met his friend Brian Albert and their group of friends who were already at the Waterfall Bar at approximately 10 p.m. Brian described the atmosphere at Waterfall as friendly, jovial, with a live band playing. Brian stated that he remembered when John and Karen walked into the bar together and Karen opened her coat and placed a glass with clear liquid in it onto the table. Brian described the drinking glass as being ribbed
for her pleasure, obviously,
and consistent with the ones utilized by C.F. McCarthy's. Brian told us he remembered John to be wearing a rolled baseball-style cap, and Karen had black knee-high boots and maybe a white shirt. Brian did not know what Karen was drinking and was not even sure if she finished her beverage. Oh. At one point after John and Karen's arrival, Brian told us that there was a round of shots being brought to the table for members of the group to have. Brian was not sure what anyone was drinking, since according to him, he keeps to himself and stays pretty quiet.
Except for when he's being dry humped by Brian Albert or taunting John O'Keefe just moments before he kills him.
When asked about the atmosphere and people's behavior and demeanor, Brian described it as be casual with conversation taking place. Everyone was in a good mood, especially Karen and John. See, they were in a good mood. There was no fighting. Brian added that he had seen John have a few drinks in the past, but this night John was very calm and did not appear intoxicated at all. Brian added that it was a good vibe. No arguments between Karen and John or anyone else, and he remembers John smiling throughout the night.
That is telling and untrue. We know that Brian Higgins was taunting John O'Keefe as he was leaving the bar, And in response, old John O'Keefe was smiling and dancing right in that big boy's face.
Oh, yeah, see, they were getting along just fine. Number 6, Brian went on to say that once the bar was closing, Jen McCabe, Brian Albert's sister-in-law, invited everyone in their group of friends back to Brian Albert's house. At the time, Brian stated that he only knew that he himself was going back to Brian's home at 34 Fairview Road, but did not know who else was coming. Brian stated that he was driving his Jeep that evening, which is equipped with a snowplow. Brian said he was first to arrive back at 34 Fairview Road, and as a result, he cleaned out a space for Brian Albert and his wife Nicole to park the vehicle they were driving in their driveway. The weatherman came to trial number 2 and told us there was only enough snow to track a cat.
Enough to track a cat, 0.2 of an inch.
We know Higgy Bear testified that he was being a smartass and did a sweep of the driveway, plowing it before Brian Albert arrived home.
There was only enough snow to track a cat, but you had to plow out a space for them to park their vehicle. Subsequently, Brian stated he parked his Jeep on the road along the property closest to the driveway on the left side facing Chapman Street. Nobody saw that Jeep. Brian stated that once inside the home located at 34 Fairview Road, he observed Brian and Nicole Albert, owners, Nicole's sister Jen and her husband Matt McCabe, as well as Brian and Nicole's children who were home at the time of everyone's arrival back from the Waterfall bar. Prior to sending John a text message at 12:20, "Where are you?" Brian remembers Jen being on the phone with John and giving him directions to the home.
This is so critical. We know that Yuri got the context of the text incorrect. Higgy Bear sent, "Are you coming here?" followed by 3 question marks. However, we never knew why he sent that. Remember, he admitted he had no idea who was going back, but now we can place Brian Higgins in the house when Jen McCabe was giving John O'Keefe directions because we have that exact timestamp.
A second. Didn't his message to John say, "You coming here?"
Yes, I said, "Are you coming here?" followed by 3 question marks.
Based upon the data from his cell phone, we know that John had already arrived at 34 Fairview and started to travel west towards the house when he opened and read that text message from Brian Higgins.
It didn't say, "Where are you?" Brian remembers Jen being on the phone with John and giving him directions to the home. So he overheard that conversation between Jen McCabe and John. Okay, cool.
While you're waiting for your husband or shortly after he gets to the car, what if any communication did you receive at that point?
I received a text from John saying where to.
At 12:14 and 26 seconds, John O'Keefe texts Jen McCabe, "Where to?" And we know immediately following that text, at 12:14, Jen calls John O'Keefe and gives him the directions.
How did you respond, if at all, to Mr. O'Keefe?
I was driving, so I called him. He said where to. I gave him the address, and then I believe I just started giving him directions, and I actually think Matt spoke over me and was saying, "Go this way, go this way." I said, "Yeah, you just go down to Fairview, it's at the bottom." Well, he actually called back a second time. I instructed him that it was by a friend's house, his niece and my daughter's friend. And I said, "Oh, it's right, go past Bella's street."
Bella was the daughter of one of the many moms John was banging in the neighborhood, and obviously he could use that as a waypoint in order to find the house. However, this is so critical. So we have 2 phone calls, one at 12:14 and one at 12:18, both describing exactly how to get to 34 Fairview. We now know Brian Higgins has admitted that he overheard those calls. And guess what happens just 2 minutes later? At 12:20 and 49 seconds, Brian Higgins is sending that text, "You coming here?" followed by 3 question marks. Because by 12:24, the kids in the house have no idea where Brian Higgins is. That means that old Higgy Bear was most likely waiting in his girly Jeep for John to arrive. Let's keep watching.
It's at the bottom of the hill. Correct.
There was a call at 12:18 and 47 seconds. That call also was answered by you. John O'Keefe made that phone call, correct?
Correct.
Yes, I said, "Are you coming here?" followed by 3 question marks.
Brian described his positioning at the dining room table as having his back to the picture windows and did not observe any activity outside in front of the home. He's like, "Yeah, it wasn't me. I didn't see anything." Brian further confirmed that neither John nor Karen entered the home at any point during the evening. Brian further added that he had no knowledge of any vehicles sitting out front in front of the house with headlights on.
That's important because everyone else in the house is congregated around that table looking outside the window, and nobody knows where Brian Higgins is at that time, which is approximately 12:24. Let's keep watching.
Trooper Proctor and I once again confirmed that John O'Keefe never entered the home and there were no arguments or fights between anyone at the residence. Right. We directed Brian's attention to him leaving the home, to which he stated he walked to his Jeep and did not observe anything unusual or suspicious surrounding the home. Brian went on to say that the forecasted blizzard was moving into the region and that he was concerned about the plow operating properly and did not pay too much attention to the lawn area behind the snowbank.
Snowbank? There was only 0.2 of an inch of snow that had fallen. And I am very familiar with that exact size, and it's not large.
Brian became emotional while sharing with us that he wished he saw John on the ground and in the snow so that he could have provided first aid and possibly have saved his friend's life. Oh, he became emotional. Did he cry?
We were playing video games together.
Brian confirmed that he did not see John and traveled directly to Canton PD in order to fulfill some administrative obligations, right? Paragraph 9. At this time, the tone of conversation changed. Brian stated that he wanted to disclose some information which he believed would have surfaced during our investigation, but he wanted to ensure to share with us at this time. Brian stated that he had taken the liberty and extracted text message conversations between his phone and John O'Keefe, as well as his phone and Karen Reed. Yeah, he cherry-picked them. Brian further added that he would explain the reasoning behind these actions as he explains some of the events that had transpired between the three of them.
Red flags should have went up in the trooper's mind when an innocent witness had already hired an attorney and requested you meet at the attorney's house. And if that wasn't alarming enough, when somebody's mood completely changes and they tell you that they were having an affair with the person who died, and he's one of the only 10 possible people in the entire planet that could have killed John O'Keefe, you have to realize most likely you're now interviewing the killer.
Brian Higgins.
Let's keep watching.
Trooper Proctor has the complete digital copy of the aforementioned data from Brian's device, which he voluntarily provided to us. Wow. Wow.
And another huge red flag goes up whenever a witness provides to you documents and information they have in their possession without you even asking. It's imperative you get to the actual phone and or the carrier in order to confirm this data, but more importantly, in order to find out what else is on that phone that he did not disclose to you. Let's keep watching.
On approximately January 12th, 2022, Brian recalled getting a text message from an unknown number to him.
Hey, Brian, it's the weed whacker.
Hey, Brian, it's Weed Whacker.
The individual contacting Brian turned out to be Karen Reed. The two began friendly text message communications, and eventually both John and Karen invited Brian over for the last New England Patriots game of the season. Brian stated he walked into the home using the front door. After an evening of drinking, Brian stated he was leaving the home and attempted to walk out the same way he arrived when Karen suggested that Brian leave through the downstairs garage.
Garage.
According to Brian, Karen offered to show Brian the way and walk him out. While walking through the garage, Brian stated Karen had made an advance on him and surprised him with a kiss on the lips. Oh, for the love of the traveling bear. What?
The defendant kissed me, not like a friend.
And what was your reaction to that?
2 weeks, these are my words now, these are not the papers. 2 weeks from the date of that kiss, if you listen to Loophole lawyer, he would say the person who killed John O'Keefe, Brian Higgins.
Brian Higgins.
2 weeks from the day of that first kiss, somebody
Brian Higgins.
was mad enough to murder John O'Keefe.
Brian Higgins.
Samantha Benigno. Samantha Benigno is amazing. Go watch everything that she does. She breaks it down like nobody else. Her channel's called I Don't Belong Here. I've been on her show. I got to get her back on my show.
Samantha does do an amazing job, and we do a weekly show on Samantha's channel, I Don't Belong Here, every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Let's keep watching.
She's amazing. She breaks it down like nobody's business. Brian was very shocked by Karen's actions and confused by the entire situation, since he was assuming that Karen was in a loving relationship. The chain of events lead to Karen and Brian further communicating over text message. One of the days that followed, Karen invited Brian over to her home in Mansfield. Brian claims he never took the trip and was simply trying to figure out Karen's goals and end result. Right, where is this relationship going? At some point during their text exchange, Karen alluded to an event over New Year's Eve where she caught John kissing another woman in the hotel lobby bar where they stayed to celebrate New Year's Eve. Well,
very clever move by Higgy Bear. If you read closely, you see he's setting up a motive for Karen Reed to have killed John O'Keefe based upon this previous fight that happened in Aruba.
A few days later, Karen was planning a trip to Boston with a friend. Brian stated that on her way back from the city, Brian invited Karen over to his home, West Roxbury, in order to discuss their future and get a better understanding on what exactly Karen wanted from their friendship. They texted for a week. 1 week. Brian stated Karen came over and the two talked for a period of time, but never engaged in any intimate activity. I followed up by confirming that Brian never had sexual relations with Karen, John, or the two of them together. What? Okay, now it's confirmed. The swinger scene in Canton has just been confirmed by this police report. Now I know that I have never seen this before, ever. I followed up by confirming that Brian never had sexual relations with Karen, John, or the two of them.
Yuri asked Higgins if he had sexual relations with John O'Keefe. Here it appears Higgy Bear denied it, but we do know that one guy old Higgy Bear has a little crush on and had relations with in the past.
Gay Jeff kissed me, not like a friend.
Together. They were not a throuple. They didn't have a threesome. And now we know that the rumors of the swinger scene in Canton are real. Because why else would that be in a police report? Why would you even ask that?
Human apes kill for two reasons, sex or money. And now, sitting in front of Yuri and Proctor is the killer, giving you the exact motive, sex, with regard to who killed John O'Keefe, and these two dopes let it go by.
OMG. Brian further assured me that he did not have any relations with anyone else at the waterfall the night of January 28th.
We know that's a lie because we saw Brian Albert humping Brian Higgins on video.
And to the best of his knowledge, Karen never did either. Wait a second. Relations like sexual relations?
You better believe it.
Was this whole thing at 34 Fairview that night supposed to be a swingers party? Okay, what? Brian went on to say that the next time he and Karen texted was when she reached out on January 29th of 2022 and stated John died.
Saturday, 11:54 a.m. John died.
That is the defendant, and the defendant said John died.
At 11:54 a.m. Liar, pants on fire. Well?
Well? ...
Oops, apparently old Higgy Bear forgot to mention the fact that while at the bar, he sent what he calls a flirtatious text to Karen Reed. Well.
Well?
She didn't respond.
After she was ignoring him.
I guess you forgot to cherry pick that one when you went to the FBI kiosk and your buddy Matt Kelch taught you how to use the machine to cherry pick the messages that you were going to bring in for your February 3rd interview, huh? Another reason that I believe that Higgins had something to do with whatever happened to John O'Keefe that night is that when Karen Reed texted him, John's dead, he never, ever responded.
My new co-host Samantha Benigno,
I love you, Vince,
beautifully laid out exactly why this text, John died, is the most important text in the entire case because Brian Higgins never responded to it. Had he been truly in love and not had anything to do with the killing of John O'Keefe, he certainly would have responded. This is the perfect time to do it. However, he never did.
He never responded. If he was in love with her and he wanted a future with her, wouldn't he be so happy that he could now white knight her and come to her rescue and say, how can I help? What can I do? What can I do for you? At this point, I advised Brian that it is imperative that all of the data which he is providing is accurate and not altered in any way. Brian understood the magnitude of his actions and assured me that all the data is complete and accurate. Trooper Proctor collected Brian's printed text message conversations with both John and Karen, which he printed from the phone extraction he performed on his device. Additionally, Trooper Proctor collected the discs containing the digital phone data of the text message conversations, and we both thanked him for his cooperation, as well as his and his attorney Donatel's time prior to leaving. Wait a second. So there's a disc of digital phone data too?
You better believe there is, and my lesbian girlfriend who just made partner at her major law firm and I are on it. We're going to obtain those discs. We want to see all the text messages. Remember, they read a few of them in trial number 1. They read additional ones that we never seen in trial number 1 in the second trial, but we want to get that source data and we will do it. And no matter what, the one thing we always will do is produce these videos until the real killer,
Brian Higgins,
is brought to justice.
I didn't always take them up on their offer, and I usually did the Irish exit, and I decided because of the weather and everything else, and it had been a long day.
It had been a long day.
It was a long day. We had been on the road. I just was looking to get home. It was a long day. Well, it was a long day. We both had the same long day.
A long day.
What kind of relationship? A buddy-buddy relationship?
The same thing everybody wants, a real relationship.
A relationship, Mr. Higgins?
It's possible.
Right.
I kissed gay Jeff. The same thing everybody wants. A real relationship. It's possible. Sending somebody flowers. It's possible.